Is a judge subject to removal if he points a gun at a litigant during the course of a proceeding and thereafter boasts about it, repeatedly referring to the litigant's race? To find out, you have to read Matter of Putorti versus New York State Commission on Judicial Ethics, but it's 11 pages. Don't have time for that? I've got you covered. This is TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read, where I cover New York Court of Appeals cases, and I try to do it in 5 minutes or less. This is the episode on the case of the matter of Honorable Robert Putorti versus New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. The citation for this case is 2023 New York Slip Opinion 05304, published by the New York Court of Appeals on October 19th of 2023. The issue in this case, it's a misconduct investigation against a judge, and the question is when a judge pulls a gun on a litigant in the middle of court and thereafter boasts to other people about that litigant and that incident, repeatedly referring to the litigant's race, and separately engages in fundraising online, does that sufficient to warrant removal or censure or penalty against the judge? To understand and appreciate what's going on in this case, you have to understand first that there's a set of rules that apply to judges that can be found at Part 100 of the Rules of the Chief Administrative Judge. And they are a set of rules that talk about how judges, importantly, judges are judges always, even when they're off the bench. So the rules that apply to a judge at all times. They must always act with the utmost integrity, impartiality, free from bias, conflict of interest. And those are the rules that judges must abide by. Now, what are the facts here? The facts are that Judge Robert Putorti has been licensed to carry a firearm since 2003, and he became a judge, and he asked at the 2013 judicial training course whether he could carry legally his concealed firearm at the bench. And he was told he could. So what he did is he took his firearm and he attached a magnet to the underside of the bench or the desk, and he had it there loaded. So if he ever needed to, he could pull this firearm that was hidden from underneath the bench, and he'd have a loaded firearm in court. Now, in 2015, while Judge Putorti was on the bench as a village and town justice in the Whitehall Court, which is located in Washington County, New York, a litigant who is a 165-pound black man, about 6 feet tall, was in Whitehall Village Court related to a felony weapon charge that had been reduced to a misdemeanor, and he served a certain period of jail. And the case was called, and this litigant who walked up, normally there's apparently a line on the floor that litigants are supposed to walk up to and stop. But this litigant walked further than that, more towards the judge's bench. So the judge reached underneath his bench and took the loaded firearm and pointed it at the litigant. And the litigant said, I'm just here to talk to you. And the judge said, back up, and then we could talk. And the litigant backed up. The judge put the gun away. They spoke. After this incident where he pulled a gun on a litigant, he then started bragging about this to different people, to different judges groups. He gave an interview to a newspaper where he talked about this. And it was kind of like a fishtail, where instead of this person being a 6 foot tall, 165-pound black man, which is what the facts are, in the retelling, it was a 6 feet 9 inches tall man, built like a football player. And he always referred to the person as a big black man. And that the litigant ultimately filed a complaint, and it was under investigation. While it was under investigation, and there was a charge against the judge for the incident in the courtroom, he also was repeatedly posting on Facebook fundraising for not-for-profits, which is not allowed by the rules of judicial conduct. So the Commission on Judicial Conduct files these formal charges based upon the written complaint. In lieu of a hearing, he entered a stipulation of facts, and the commission then, based upon the stipulation of facts, found evidence of racial bias, extreme breach of judicial decorum, and lack of remorse, lack of attention to ethics, and recommended removal. He then appealed this, and it goes to the Court of Appeals, and that's what we have here. And you should watch the oral argument. I usually attach the link to the oral argument in these descriptions, but this is one where it was a particularly interesting oral argument. You could tell the animosity that the bench has for what this judge did here, and they're very they're disappointed and disgusted by the conduct of this judge. And the ultimate holding here is that the judge's repeated description of the litigant as a large black man are not just a description. That was the defense, was I was just describing him. In fact, they say the holding is that he was exploiting a classic and common racist trope that black men are inherently threatening or dangerous, exhibiting bias or at least implicit bias, which is a violation of the judicial conduct rules. Judges must observe a higher standard of conduct than the general public and must act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence and the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. So normally the sanction of removal, the question now is, what should be the sanction? They found a problem. What should be the sanction? Normally removal is warranted only in the most egregious of circumstances that go even beyond extremely poor judgment. But that is what they find we have here. We have a pattern of misconduct based upon the brandishing of the firearm, not showing any remorse, giving press interviews bragging about it, boasting about it to colleagues, and repeatedly referring to the litigant's race in the stories he told. Judge removed, and that's the case of the Honorable Putorti versus New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Have a good day. If you like what you just saw and want to see more just like it, please hit like or subscribe to let me know.